Hey, I'm Jim Johnson, your host here with Contractor Radio, and I want to thank you for taking the time today to listen to our show. And our show is all about you, helping you get control of your business so you can grow your business and find that personal and financial freedom you're after. So, hang on tight, episode's about to start.
The next kind of component to this, once again, we can only control ourselves, really. Let's become a human. Try that one on. Now that sounds kind of weird, but let's try being a human. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to have a bad day. As a matter of fact, it's okay to struggle. It's okay to have some problems. If work was easy, everybody would do it. So maybe we become a little bit more of a human and we show a little bit more empathy and we try to dig just a little bit deeper and ask a few more questions, as well as opening ourselves up to communicating with others. So, for example, if you're having a bad day, it might not be a bad thing to say, "Hey, look, Charlie, sorry, man, I'm just having a bad day and I'm just feeling a little grumpy, man." Imagine if you were talking to somebody and they said that to you. Your first instinct as a person, especially if you like Charlie or if you like Nathan, would probably be to say, "Hey, man, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't want you for you to have a bad day, and sorry if I came off a little negative." So I made myself a little bit vulnerable in by expressing my own humanity, which actually opened a little window for that person to see into my head, into my emotions, into where I'm at. It will also allow them to probably feel safe to communicate that themselves. The first place I heard this phrase was the Village Church out of Dallas or the Dallas area. So shout out to the Village Church. It's okay to not be okay. If you work in an environment where it's not okay to be not okay, believe me, there are people that are not okay at your work environment. They're just not telling you, because everybody deals with these things. So let's try being a little bit more human. The next component to this is probably seeking some ways to create. I know there's some there's a hot button term if you want to go there, but a safe environment, a safe place where people can actually express that they're struggling a little bit, that people are having some problems. That might create more context to our communication. And furthermore, if you're working on a team and you express to your team that you're struggling with something, odds are your team will probably be willing to come beside you and help you, especially if you're dealing with some things that could turn into really, really big fires later on down the road. Remember, the only person inside your head is you. And if nobody else knows what's going on inside there, then that miscommunication is going to be highly likely. So, in a little bit of a synopsis here, everybody has their baggage. Some of it we can help, some of it we can't. We never leave our baggage at any door. Our baggage influences the way we see ourselves, the way we see the world, and our behavior. Furthermore, in order to come up with solutions for this, we actually need to address ourselves first. What is our baggage? What are our triggers? What are our patterns? Can we make better assumptions about others? Can we operate from those better assumptions? And can we become more of a human being and create a safe place for people to be able to communicate on a deeper and more productive level? If you guys want to dive a little bit deeper into this concept, there's a book out there called Leadership and Self-Deception. I'll see if we can put a link down below to that book. Great book. And I highly recommend that if you're dealing with some of these things at your company, have everybody read it.
What do you have to say to those that say it's dangerous to put your religion in your business?
I'd say they're right.
I would say it's dangerous to train a real good salesperson as well. He may go off and and start his own company. But it's more dangerous for your business to not train him.
Mm. Well, I mean, I think the thing that comes to mind for me now is who are you more afraid of? That would be my question. Somebody says, well, I want to be careful about doing this and doing this and doing this. And my question would be, well, I mean, who like, what are you called to do, first of all? And who are you more afraid of? Like, if I got a friend of mine that says, hey, you should go do this thing. And I'm like, okay. And then my mom says, you should go do this thing. Which one of those two am I more likely to be like, I'm probably going to do what this person says. I'm going to do what my mom says. Why? Not because I'm afraid of my mother, but I have more respect, and I have more respect and more honor. And I'm afraid, like, if you imagine being a kid and you getting your backside whooped, like, I'm afraid of what my dad says. I'm afraid, like, I'm going to do that thing. So am I afraid if I don't do the thing my friend says of offending them? Well, maybe, right? But which one am I more afraid of? And I don't think it's necessarily has to be like a trembling fear, but that concept of honor and of glorification and of respect and that kind of a thing. Like, I'd be more afraid of violating a directive by somebody to whom I owe so much than worrying about Joe Blow over here doesn't like the fish on your business door, so he's not going to use you as as your contractor. Well, okay.
Might be God saying, hey, you probably didn't want that guy anyway. Very possible.
I think it can make you a target too, though. That's the other thing. Some people look for an opportunity to attack that. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like if you decide, do you believe that I'll rip off Del Tackett. I don't know if any of you guys know who he is, but do you believe that what you believe is really real? Mm-hmm. And if you do, how should you act in accordance with that? Because you're putting a flag down when you make the kind of statements. When you make the kind of statements we're making today, you put the flag down. And here's the thing: people are going to A, want to know if you're really who you say you are, and they'll be watching from that perspective. B, some people are going to try and tear that down because they don't believe in it. And C, some people are going to see an opportunity or an advantage to try and destroy you or use it against you. Right? Like, hey, don't go work with Contractor Coach Pro. They're a bunch of God-believing nutballs.
Bible thumpers.
Like, okay. If you don't, okay. So yeah, it is dangerous. But what danger do you fear more?
I'd like to piggyback on what Nathan just said. Who do you fear more, man or God? And to me, when Jesus says these words, so because you are lukewarm, neither hot or cold, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. Okay, I'm all in for Jesus. I'm not going to be lukewarm. I'm not going to be on the fence and go, yeah, I'm a Christian on Sunday, but during the week I need to scale, and make $100 million. No. The fear of the Lord brings wealth, honor, and long life. So yeah, I'm not scared of any man. I fear the Lord.
So a lot of people don't believe. How does that affect our boldness?
It affects it if you think the world belongs to you. You think everybody's got to believe you or understand you or accept you or, then that's where you get confused. If you literally believe that what you have has a audience that's specific to the voice, and y'all may not believe this, but then you shouldn't have asked me on here. I just believe that we have a unique voice and a unique gift. And not everybody is going to pay attention to it. And we stay frustrated and we try to conjure up ways, in my opinion, to try to make everybody palatable to this word that's in us. And it's just never going to work. So You can keep going back to that well, so to speak. But the fact is, either you believe that you can affect everybody, or there's a portion, a metron that belongs to you because of your uniqueness and the Spirit of the Lord within you, or you don't. And so I just don't get frustrated with people who like, well, they're Bible thumpers. Okay, cool. We're probably not going to be in any kind of real deep relationship. And so I'm not throwing my pearl before the swine.
Okay. Anybody else on that one?
Yeah, I would say for any non-believer, it's not about them believing the same as me, but what I want them to feel is like the hands and feet of Jesus. What was it? Faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. What I want them to feel is that it's coming from a place of love, comes from a heart of love. If you choose not to believe the same way I do, okay, it doesn't mean that I can't still demonstrate to you loving kindness.
That's where I was hoping it was going. There's this
gold star for Larry, whatever.
Well, there's this thought process that as Christians, you're either on our team or off our team, right? Like there's two sides of this thing. And while you may not be on my team, I'm absolutely okay with that. I still love you. I still will help you. I will still do for you. I will still take action and serve and love and care for you, because that's what we're asked to do. That is what a Christian is. And we're going to fail. We're going to fail every day, all day long, because we are imperfect. I think that's the thing that may get missed the most in defining a Christian, is that with that comes certain expectations that we're going to act in a certain way, and we're going to be what would Jesus do all the time. Well, we're not Jesus. We just aren't. There's a reason we need him, because we aren't him. And I think we set ourselves up for failure when we put ourselves on a pedestal of I'm a Christian and you're something less, because you're not, because you slam the door closed at that point. I don't want to slam the door on anybody. It's always open. It's always welcome. You can hit me through anything: Facebook, text me, call me, email me, send smoke signals, whatever it takes. My door's open. That's what I worry about. That's what I worry about more than anything else. By us being bold, is closing the door, because people see that boldness as something that stands in their way, that we have drawn a line in the sand or put a flag down that prevents them from walking through that door. How do we walk that line? Because it is a line, right? Why the cardio first thing in the morning before anything else? And then you also mentioned that it was fasted. Because I do the same thing, and I know why I do it. Why you?
So two best times to do cardio, either first thing in the morning or immediately after your workout. And the best way to put it in layman's terms is, if I just ate right before I got on here and spoke with you. So if I were to go do cardio right now, really the first 30, 45 minutes, all I'm doing is burning the food off my stomach that's in my stomach versus burning stored body fat that I'm actually trying to get rid of. So you do it fasted, so the whole time, start to finish, you're burning body fat.
Okay. That's another good reason. That was not my reason was, when you sleep overnight, you build up a lot of cortisol. And cortisol is the fear hormone and a stress hormone. And if you go work out first thing, you get rid of it.
Yep.
And it's the wildest thing. Like, whenever I'm done when I start my workout, I freaking hate it. I'm like, it's early. I don't want to be awake. The last thing I want to do is start running around and moving my body all over the place. I'd rather sit down, maybe read a book or have a cup of coffee, kind of work my way into it. But if I just take the first step, lift the first weight, do my first run, do my first pedal, whatever it is that I'm doing to work out, I find that the second one's easier.
Correct.
And then by the time I get about 5 minutes into it, now I'm starting to feel a bit of a rhythm. And then by the time I'm 10, 15, 20 minutes into it, I'm like, all right, let's go. How far can we? I'm starting to think about how much can I push. And then when I finish, I'm like, dude, that was awesome. I'm like ready to go for the day. Is that similar for you?
Yeah, it's a big difference for me when I do cardio in the morning. It gets me going, gets my metabolism spiked. And plus it's just part of everything that I do in bodybuilding for me. A lot of it transfers over into the business world from the discipline aspect. So a lot of what I do it to challenge myself, not just to be the biggest, the strongest, or, best bodybuilder around, but I want that discipline because I know that there's stuff that I don't want to do. Like when my alarm goes off in the morning, normally I wake up before it goes off, but if it doesn't, there's days that I don't want to get up, and I definitely don't want to get up and do cardio, but I have to get up and do it. And I know that, and I tell people this all the time, like when you hit the snooze button, that's your first task for the day. When that snooze button goes, or when your alarm goes off, your first task is to get up. And so if you hit that snooze button, you failed your first task. And so from there, stuff starts to snowball. So then you miss your cardio. Well, I didn't do my cardio. I'll just get some extra sleep. I'll have a rest day. I'll have some cheat meals. I'll have this. I won't work out tonight because it's a rest. Stuff snowballs. So it's just a matter of getting up and doing it. And same thing with my meals. Every single morning after I do my cardio, I go out. I make all my meals for the day. Everything is weighed out to the gram. And then I package it all up, go take a shower, get ready. I don't want to do any of that. I hate cutting up chicken every morning. I hate cooking ground beef every morning. I hate it all. But it's discipline and it's stuff that I have to do to get me where I want to be, to get to the results that I want. So it's the same thing. It transfers for me over into business. And anything. There's a lot of stuff that I don't want to do. And that goes with anybody in business. There's stuff that you don't want to do, hard stuff that you may hate, but you have to do it to reach certain goals. So that's another reason why I do it.
All right, let's take a pause right there. Like we do around here, we got great partners. I want to make sure those partners not only get their money's worth with us, but help us keep the lights on around here. But I want to come back and talk maybe a little bit more about that discipline and then why are you doing all this in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of think about that for a second. I hate interrupting these videos, but this thing is something that every contractor should have. It's Company Cam. It is the one piece of software every home service contractor should use to document their jobs. Every picture you ever take is associated to the address you took it. It's like Instagram for every project that you have. Give a link to the homeowner and share it to them while you're doing your inspection and win more sales. If you want to find out more about Company Cam, check the description below. Save a few bucks by following our link.
It was a field marketing management tool. And for people who don't know what field marketing is, it's kind of when you send promoters like brand ambassadors into college campuses and they're like selling Red Bull or like giving out things. It's not sales, it's marketing. And so we had an app for that. It was a very basic app. But like you said, in the back of my head, I was like, this is not the next big thing. So we were always looking for that in that first year that we were doing that company. And then we found it. And usually how we got into AI, well, I do data science. Any kind of amazing revolutionary product, it's usually at the cutting edge of technology, right? Because it's like, why now? It's because the technology exists now to be able to do whatever it is that you were thinking of doing. Amazon started because the internet was a thing, right? It was not possible to do Amazon. Facebook started because the internet was good enough. So there's Airbnb started because people have mobile phones and Uber, you know what I mean? So like there was like all these enabling technologies. So we knew it was going to be somewhere at the cutting edge. But the day that the idea struck me, I was talking to one of our users, a field marketing manager for one of these big companies that we had in our customer base. And it was a very simple set of questions. I asked her, it says here that you guys are talking to 100 people per event. And she said yes. And it says here also that you guys do 50 events a week. And she said yes. And I said, you're talking to 20,000 people per month, like field marketing. And she said, yeah, I mean, that's normal. And I was like, how many markets are there like you in this big company that you're working with? And she said, there's about 200 markets. It's like big brand, big company. And I was like, are you talking to 4 million people every single month, like face to face and all these interactions? And she said, well, if you put it that way, I never thought about it that way. And then in the back of my head, I'm thinking the marketing executives at these big companies, which I know, they're spending, $500 million every year on surveys, social media analytics, focus groups, all to try to get into the minds of their consumers so that they can create better marketing, better products, better experiences. And here, and then from all those sources of data, even social media analytics, and you guys can look this up, like you look at one of the most popular products like Bud Light or like Anheuser-Busch, you look at the total engagement that they have in social media, like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and it's like a couple 100,000 points of engagement every single month. Maybe like getting into the millions when they go viral or something like that, but on average. And here's this lady telling me that, these field marketing brand ambassadors, these college kids are reaching, like that they have the single biggest source of data from their consumers is happening in these field marketing events, 4 million conversations every single month. And I was like, wow, what if we could actually capture this, transcribe these conversations, analyze it with natural language processing, and turn them into these little dashboards that these marketing executives are used to seeing for their surveys and their social media analytics. What if we could do that? And then I started doing the numbers and I realized it wasn't only this company. It was, Red Bull and Heineken and Molson and Anheuser-Busch and Coca-Cola and Pepsi. And it wasn't only brands. It was anybody that was talking to customers face-to-face. We did the numbers and there's about 10 billion conversations being had between customers and salespeople or service people offline, face-to-face every single month. You think when you walk into the retail store, when the roofing contractor goes into the home, the solar, the telecommunications, the banking, all these tens of millions of salespeople who are having tens of billions of conversations every single month. And just to put it in contrast, there's 80 billion Google searches. So 10 billion versus 80 billion Google searches. So Google's worth $2 trillion. We were like 1/8 of Google's not a bad number. And when we saw this idea, it was just like a no-brainer for us. I told to one of my co-founders, and I was like, hey man, do you want to drop this thing that we're doing and, go to this, really hard problem of AI and just figure it out? Like we were doing good, man. We were like, could have kept growing and made a couple million and be fine. We weren't interested in that. We were like, no. Go big or go home. We're going for this. 10 billion conversations. Let's do it. Let's go.
First off, amazing story. Just the whole thing of you got something going good. A lot of people, when they got something going good, they're not looking for the next best thing. And it's like, hey, let's just nail that and get that thing perfected. The way that you see things, like you through those questions, you got to 10 billion conversations. Like you asked a few questions and got to 10 billion conversations just like that. Like, wow, this is big. And you understood how big that was. That, first off, that takes a smart guy, like to understand. Click to that. So kudos to you. I was sitting there 7 years ago thinking about the same thing. This idea that there's so many sales conversations going on, and nobody knows what's being said. It's one-to-one, and you could say anything to that guy, and that guy could respond with anything, and nobody knows anything about it except for the final result. They either learned from you or they didn't. But what led to that, right? Like, And so we have, for generations, been Neanderthals in really like guessing what works. Right? We're guessing, we're putting it together. And you see from format, presentation, practice, role play, you see results improving, and you keep improving them over time. And it can be successful. But I always felt it could be way more successful. But the technology wasn't there yet, or I wasn't smart enough, which probably me, to find it.
It wasn't there. The tech wasn't there.
I feel better now because I searched up and down, backwards and forwards, like, hey, how can we analyze these conversations to generate feedback back to the company, the manager, and the salesperson to give them the highest possible feedback that would allow them to have success more often, to find out what actually works.
Yeah.
And then Contractor Coach Pro got busy. Contractor Radio became set off on a back burner, and I'm grateful and thankful that somebody chased this, because I thought it was something that's a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly not the first people that had this idea. I know many people, like some of our customers that are, you know, pretty smart guys themselves. They were like, you know, I thought about this in 2015. We couldn't even make it happen. So there was a lot of things that had to happen for this to exist. 2015, 2016 is when speech to text transcription got good enough to be able to transcribe audio well enough so that it could be used. And now 2020, we are actually at the very cutting edge of, I mean, if you think about like a home improvement sale, it's usually face-to-face outside. It's like really, really difficult to capture this kind of audio because you're like dealing with like noise and like multiple speakers, and you have to like, you know, you're dealing with like the husband and the wife and the, you know, everybody who's talking and the thing, and it's being captured by one microphone. Whereas in like a call center, you have, you know, multiple people speaking on each microphone. So it's like multi-channel audio. When you're trying to bring speech analytics to a lot of these industries that it has not been, and like those 10 billion conversations, which is mostly offline, you're really at the cutting edge of like AI, because you have to identify people by the sound of their voice. You have to like understand who's talking when. You have to filter out noise. If there's, you know, you have to know what's speech, like when someone's speaking, and when there's like music that has people talking in the music, and you have to know that that's music, and you need to, so it's like really difficult to do. And the technology was not there at all in 2012. It just wasn't there.
So during my time inside of home improvement, inside of my time as a manager, I've always lived by it. I've heard it and lived by it is, you know, if you do the right thing, the money's going to come. And it's, for me, I was one of the top sales reps in the country in mortgage. And the money came so fast. And my wife, when I told her that I wanted to become a sales manager, I mean, she was devastated because she knew that the gravy train was about to be over. But that moment that I was able to help somebody the first time, where they were going to have to go back to a $30,000 a year job, and now, I mean, this person that I helped is still making $400,000 a year, and that does something to you. You know, just like with you, it's not always about the money. It's and I want to have your story about Madison, but you know, there's so many people that come under you, and that is worth more than anything you ever get paid. And so, you know, I know that Becca's the same way. She has that heart of gold that just wants to help.
You know, I'm real big about sending the female reps that I have to Becca, right? Becca knows how to use that female persona without having to play this little game, you know, to try to make sales happen. Like, she knows how to be a sales rep as a woman in a man's industry, right? Which is total bogus, right? Because like, if you're not hiring female sales reps, you're insane, right? Like, you need to grow up or something. 2022, you know what I mean? Because Brianna gave me a run for my money last year, and in the company, I started sales managing, so my sales kind of backed off a little bit, and because I'm trying to focus on the team and do that whole thing, and so she actually passed me up, and I was like, dude, no way. So like, I turned it on in the last quarter, right, and passed her back up, and it's been an ongoing joke since then. But when it comes like that, I want to get back to what you were just talking about though for a second. I have a whole bunch of people that are under me now, right? And my solar sales team, man, they've got more experience than me in abundance, right? Like abundance. Between 5 of them, they sold $35 million in solar last year. Okay. And I sold $1 million in the month of February. right? Like that's the extent of my solar career whenever I'm trying to recruit like $35 million worth of closers, but I got the job done, right? And regardless of what goes on, when you're a closer, you're a closer. And that's the same thing in hiring, bud. You got to close them. And,
Right.
But it's the self-fulfillment that I get out of the people that I watch go from situations that I was in, right? And that's the biggest value to me in this industry, is it has given me a platform to make a change, right? Like a legitimate change. And those $35 million worth of closers, hey, they had money when they came over, man. I love them to death, and those guys are crucial to our team and always will be. But the ones that didn't have nothing and that came from other roofing companies, not selling a dime because they didn't know how to, and the company wouldn't take time to teach them. And then to watch them now, as she's the number 2 rep in the whole company, right? That right there, dude, is worth way more than the $250,000 I've made this year. Way more. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Yeah. And man, I'm right there with you. The feeling you get, the hair that stands up on your arms just when you think about it, that every time you see her and see the big smile on her face, knowing that you didn't just change a life, you changed lives, because it's a domino effect.
yeah.
That she's going to take the knowledge that you gave her, she's going to pass it on. That's just human nature.
It's so cool, man. Like, I had Brad there to fall back on with any like life problems because I was in the Army before I was an addict, right? So I was really good at doing exactly what I was told, right? I was never good at making my own decisions in life because I never had to do it, right? And so, like, learning how to do this and having to go and reach out and make these relationships right here without anybody making it happen or telling you to, and just realizing, oh crap, I'm going to fail if I don't figure out and swallow my pride and go ask for help by people that obviously, right, know what they're doing. And so that created kind of a double, a pro and a con for me, right? Like, the pro is my reps are going to teach themselves how to do this job, right? And my reps are going to, and I'm not going to take it easy on them. And I'm even harder on my friends, right? Because I've hired some people and had to terminate employment on friends, right? Because that's just the nature of the beast. Not everybody, I'd rather have to terminate somebody than watch them lose everything they have because they're just not made for it, right? But my reps know how to self-educate, right? And my reps know how to, I say it all the time, and I'll censor it here, but you mess it up until you figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And that's the truest statement that you're ever going to hear anybody in sales say. I can go knock a door and get past it at ease now. But when I first started, I knocked 500 before I got that first yes. And when they did, I said, "Are you sure?" Like, I got so many no's, man, that I asked the lady if she was sure. And I was like, yeah, it was, they were like, "You probably shouldn't say that." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I panicked, I've had no 500 times, I just expected it,
Really?
I was like, "You sure?" And now I'm like, I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, it was terrible, But yeah, I did. I said, "Are you sure?" And I think she just lay over, felt sorry for me because I was sweating so bad. It was August, But yeah, man, it's been a crazy day.
When it comes to owning our marketing, can you describe for me what that actually means? Like, I think we hear this ownership side of things, and a lot of times we look at it as, okay, I'm the owner and I own my marketing. So I've got that company over there and that company over there and that company over there doing my marketing for me. I'm getting the reports from them and I'm making decisions based off those reports of what I'm going to do with that next. But when it comes to owning marketing, what does that mean to you?
Well, let's use that example that you just gave of taking a look at those reports. First question is, do you even know what you're looking at? Because if you don't know what you're looking at and you're just looking at a sheet full of numbers, you're assuming these things are good. It's like, oh, well, these numbers went up month over month, so that means it's working. Well, not necessarily. Also, I like to use the example of sports because that's what I know better than anything else is sports. So in college, they have the new NIL agreements that they just signed, name, image, and likeness. So when you sub out your stuff to somebody else, they're putting something out there but it's representing your name, image, and likeness. So those are the words that your potential consumers and clients think you're actually saying, because they don't see it as a third party's doing it. They see it as you saying it. And nobody's going to write content better than you can about your company, because you're the one who started it. It's yours. It's your passion. That's what you want. So when you take ownership over what's being said about you everywhere across all these platforms, now that gives you more control over who your target audience is and making sure that you're getting in front of the audience that you want to through what you're saying and what you're posting. So I would say that's one huge example of what it means to own your marketing.
Yeah, there's absolutely a voice to it, right? And a tone to your brand. It's something we take really seriously around here. And we've gone through the effort of getting our story, what we want to share and what we want to tell, documented down. And that way, even if I'm not the one saying it and one of my team is out there doing the work, it still has the same tone. Now that's something you could help coach with, right? Like if a company was to come on, you could help them develop those type of things so that their tone is right. It's still coming from them, but they're not having to write every single word out on every single post, right?
Exactly. And I think a lot of that starts with where the contractor blueprint begins, because I didn't go through all the coaching when we first started, but I went through enough to realize that, okay, we're picking our core values as a company. So those core values set the tone for everything. And and that even spreads into your marketing as well. So like with Contractor Coach Pro, it's love, serve, grow. Or love, serve, care. Sorry, golly.
You were close. You're
was
still
my
new.
first.
You're still new. But hey, man,
Oh
that's
my
awesome
gosh.
that you already know that. To me, I'm like, that's great.
That's our church's saying.
Okay.
not ours. Oh man. I was on the phone with the church like 20 minutes before I got on here with you, and I was still in that mode. Sorry.
Well, we kind of have a congregation of contractors.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty well.
But I hear love, serve, care. And that's the tone that everybody uses in all the marketing, but we've ingrained that into our strategy that we're actually using, and everything that we post now, we have control over what is said. And yes, we can coach you with, helping write copy. What is your content, not what does it need to look like, but kind of guide you down that road of this is kind of, where you should be heading with content if you want to continue to push those core values. Yeah,
I ran across some really good information on understanding like your brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's this equation that your results times your reach equals your reputation. And your reputation is really what your brand is. It's the tone, it's what people believe about you, it's what they perceive about you. And so when you take those two things, your results times reach. So you might have amazing results. You may serve customers greatly and do the best roofs on the planet, and they absolutely love you. But if nobody knows about that, you have no reach. And so your reputation is going to be very diminished. And the reverse, right? Like if your work is crappy and you have a lot of reach, guess what? That's even going to be worse. Like everybody knows who you are, but your work is crappy. That's going to spread negatively really quickly.
Yeah.
And so these ideas of putting together this strategy, I see so many folks, and this is why it was so important for us to bring somebody in that really understands the marketing of a contracting business and the nuance of it and has experience with it. Because most marketing companies don't delve into the other aspects of the business. They're just like, hey, you want to get more leads? What kind of tone do you want to have to it? They just hope they give them the right thing. And, oh, that's your logo. Okay, great. What are some of the things that are already on your website? Cool. Okay, we'll go with that. But it's not really tied into their strategy, to their culture, to their processes, their people, on what they believe in, what kind of company they are, which we do all of those things earlier in our coaching process. So by the time we get to marketing gets a lot easier.
It does.
What have you noticed, when working with the contractors that we have here? You've gotten some experience at Top Rep. You've seen some of them. What have you noticed about them when it comes to a marketing aspect of things as far as their willingness and want to own it?
I think there's a common consensus that everybody wants to have more control over their marketing, but they don't want to have control over every facet of it when it comes to the doing. They want to have control over the strategy and the plan, but not necessarily the act of like performing, if that makes sense.
Do you ever realize there's a disconnect between those two things though? Like you got people like me that are very visionary, and I think strategy, and I know what I want it to do, right? And I can kind of see the big picture of those pieces, but the actual execution of it, number one, incapable. Number two, not the time, right?
Yeah.
Nor do I really understand the copy aspect of it as well as I probably could.
Mm-hmm.
What actually gets somebody, because that's the whole goal. The whole goal of marketing is one thing: raise your hand. Just raise your hand. That's all I want. Raise your hand. Now I got you interested. We can work from there. Why do you think contractors struggle in connecting those two sides of things, the strategy and vision and structure, to the actual doing and executing?
I think it's time. I think a lot of contractors view marketing as a necessary evil, but it's also it can be time consuming, but it doesn't have to be. So, I mean, think about all the hats any owner wears on a regular basis. I mean, you're the owner of the company, you're keeping track of the books, you're making sure your sales guys are doing what they're supposed to do. You got production, you got bills, and then anything else that may pop up during the day as well. These guys have a lot of stuff going on. The first thing on your mind isn't, oh, I need to take a picture of this job and post it on social media. That's not the first thing that pops into your mind when you got 1,000 other things going on, because you don't look at it. Not all, but some contractors look at it. That's not making me money right now. I have money making activities I need to be doing. Okay. Yes, I agree. But marketing is a money making activity. No, it may not yield you results today, but in 30, 60, 90 days, it may, if you're consistent with it. I heard a saying a long time ago, whatever you do in this 90 days is actually going to pay off in the next 90. It's a quarterly basis. So if we're hustling hard and we're keeping it up with the marketing on a consistent basis, it might take that long, but it will start paying off after a while. But I do think it comes down more to a time management, maybe not the management side, but the top of mind to actually put something out there. And then when they do, it's like, oh, well, it's not perfect, so I'm not going to post it.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, it's like, I look a little off on this. I don't like the way my face looks. Oh, there's a shingle laying in the bushes. I can't post that, or I'm going to get hammered on, on social media for something.
If it was about how my face looks, there wouldn't even be a podcast.
But you get too caught up in perfection that you end up getting paralysis by analysis, to where you're not doing anything because you're overanalyzing every word, every picture, every video. And it's like, man, people want to see real. That's what people gravitate to. They see enough doctored up stuff on TV and, and everywhere else. It's like they want to see the real you, and they want to know your why. They want to know what your core values are. So you need to tell them.
I think it's important to talk about training and the difference between training, which is teaching, and then coaching, and what those things mean out there to your businesses. I was having a conversation today with one of our contractors, and I asked him, I said, so we've got this event that's going on. We're going to be hiring some folks. What's it going to look like when you train them? And the first words out of their mouth were, well, we're going to get them to ride with so-and-so. And I hear this over and over again, this idea of ride-along training. And while valuable, there's nothing wrong with having a new guy ride with somebody with some experience. He's going at it with very little context. He literally showed up day one, and you're saying, hey, go ride with Bill and figure out what it is that we do, which is really not a very good approach because what it does is it ends up causing this guy to have to learn over a long period of time, which defeats this thing that we discuss called time to money. How fast can I get somebody trained up, especially on my sales team, in an effort to get them to the point of making some money? And unfortunately, it takes a little while to learn what we're doing. And this all happened back many years ago as I was trying to figure out what to do with my own team. I hearkened back to some of my own previous experience and really found that what happened is I got a lot of training, I got a lot of teaching, and then I got a lot of coaching. Those two things are very different. Teaching is getting the information and then understanding why that information is important. And then coaching is helping hone that information, holding people accountable to what it is that they learned and executing it well while keeping them motivated on those fundamentals, building the skills so that they go out and execute well. Unfortunately, in our industry, we don't see too much of that in the home services world. And I think it's one of the big reasons why home service contractors fail to scale is they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to train somebody. They know how to show people what they've done, but that's not necessarily making it something that is valuable for that person to learn from. I've been very lucky. I've gotten to go to millions of hours of sales training, seminars, certification programs, but really and truthfully, most of all, reading. Spent a lot of time really reading, building this strong foundation of these skills that I can now impart to others to help them to become great salespeople. And us as leaders really need to take on that responsibility to get that information so that we can then train on it well. We need to have a format to what we're doing, a plan. This idea that we're bringing somebody into our world and we get this one opportunity to affect their entire future. Not just a job with us, but hopefully a career with us. And even if it's not a career with us, you're going to have an impact on their career in sales and possibly whether they decide to continue to do sales or not. So it's a huge responsibility. So what do we got to do first? What's the first thing? Well, we need to gain the skills ourselves. A lot of times we have learned from somebody else and we don't really know what it is that we're doing. We're just parroting. We're repeating back what we've heard before without any true understanding of why that thing may work. And so it can work for us after many experiences of seeing it and doing it, a lot of failing forward, trying things out to see what works. And maybe through our persistence and drive, we end up actually making it. But many years ago, I'm like, there's got to be a better way. I looked at what I had done before and said, hey, in our industry, if we bring that to the world, we can be very successful. And if you look around at the great contractors that are out there, they spend an enormous amount of time training, but they're not just doing, hey, this is how you do it. They're explaining why you do it this way and the psychology behind it, the science behind it, the art behind it, because there's so much of that that's nuanced that some of us may not really understand what that is that we're doing. So in order to help you guys maybe get some of this down, I want to share with you some of the things that have worked well for me, and hopefully they'll help you do well out there in the field, teaching and then training and then coaching your own teams. So first off, you got to get some great base knowledge. This idea that the person that's doing the teaching, you don't go to college and learn from a professor that doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand the nuance, the full and true understanding behind what it is that he's teaching. He knows it inside and out, backwards and forward, and he really is a resource in just about any question he can probably answer. And if he can't answer it, he knows where to go and find it. So he's got an extensive amount of schooling, training, reading, courses, all types of things to get to this point to where he is. And we're really lacking in that in our world. Whether we're the entrepreneurial leader or the sales leader in our company, what real skill do we have? Yeah, we've gone to some conferences and listened to some guy that sold 1 million or 2 million or 10 million or whatever the number is, but that guy doesn't know how to teach either. He actually knows how to sell. And those are two very different things. Very few people that can actually sell can teach it, which is a unique talent that you have out there that anybody can actually learn, though. It is a skill. Some of us are naturally talented at sharing information, but learning how to teach people is a skill. Number one thing above and beyond all things, start reading every book you can and listening to every podcast you can about sales. Try to listen to the ones that are more related to your particular niche. In other words, get the information that you need. Pick out the folks that resonate with you as far as sales leaders. There's a lot of great ones out there. Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, Grant Cardone. I mean, there's all kinds of them out there that are pretty good at what they do. My strong suggestion to you, though, is don't take everything that they say to be the only way. Pull the good pieces in that fit your culture and your value system, and then start to teach others what those are. So you got to get this base foundation. Go to every seminar you can. Go get certified in the various, like Sandler Sales is a great sales approach. Understand the different types of sales approaches. You have solution selling methodology. You have client-centric methodologies. There's all these different nuances in the way that you approach people out there. I'm a big believer in solution selling methodology. This idea that I'm here to provide the right solution for a client, but I have to actually understand what it is that client truly needs, and it may not be exactly what they're saying. So you have all of these various pieces that you've got to get put together before you can actually start teaching other folks how to do it and perform well. There's little things, the nuance behind what you do that you just take for granted that whenever you teach somebody else, you don't explain. For example, if you're out there marketing and canvassing and doing that type of stuff and you're knocking on doors, you may naturally knock on a door and step back from it and actually open up a little bit. And that's exactly what you're supposed to do. The problem is you aren't teaching the other folks the why behind why you're doing that. This nuance, that stepping back, blading your stance and opening up to that client instead of being squared up to that client makes a huge psychological difference in how the very first piece of that action is going to go. And there's 1,000 little things like that. The psychology that goes on, the human behavior and how we're wired in our brains and what makes us do what we do. Understanding incentive. There's all these little things that we really need to teach people to allow them to be great coaches themselves. So become a master of your craft. Start reading. Read everybody you can. Start following the people that you have some respect for. Ask others, now, why did you do it that way? Don't just listen to the words they say, but pay attention to their body language, the way they use their hands, the way they stand, the way they smile, the way they have their shoulders back and are confident, versus the alternative, which is to just be you sometimes. We need to understand that there are certain ways that we hold our bodies and hold our actions and do the things that we do that are going to have a huge impact on your success of being a great salesperson or not. And it will have a bigger impact on those that are teaching you to be able to share that information in a way that you understand it. So that's thing one. Get all the knowledge that you possibly can, and not just the information, but why am I doing that information? Is it because this is psychological? Is this something that's human behavior? Is this something that's technique or tactic? Why am I doing what I'm doing when I'm doing it? And how does that play with the rest of what I'm doing in my particular position, whether that's sales or anything else? Oh, you're still here? Well, you must have thought it was great. Make sure to like and subscribe to Contractor Radio and never miss an episode, because we're here to help you get better at what you do.